People of Earth, comic book community, welcome back to the Flash by Night channel, and welcome back to my follow-up on episode 4 of Moon Knight on Disney+. Episode 4 was, for lack of a better word, a doozy. It moved a lot of people in a lot of different ways. We'll go over that later on. But we are going to jump into the high points of what happened. Last episode, I went about 30 minutes. To be honest, I don't want to listen to 30 minutes of me rambling, so a lot of you probably don't want to listen to 30 minutes of me rambling. So we're going to hit the high points, keep it kind of short, and ask some questions in the middle and towards the end, which is why we call it the follow-up. Anyway, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you already have not, and we're going to hop into it. So in what I'm going to call the unofficial start of the first episode, we see the avatar for Osiris. I don't remember the human's actual name. I'm just going to call him the avatar for Osiris. Taking the now encased in stone Khonshu down to some lower level of the Pyramid of Giza. I think that's where they still are. And we heard at the end of the last episode that he is encased in stone like many before him. As I pointed out, we had 5 of the Ennead, which is like 9 Egyptian gods, in attendance. So I expected to see Khonshu and maybe 2 or 3 more gods encased in stone downstairs. What we got were 10 gods. So I don't know what's going on with that, but that was kind of the unofficial opening. Then you had the Marvel credits roll, and then the next thing you do, you open up to the desert, like immediately after the scene where Khonshu and Mark kind of turn back the stars. Well, Khonshu and Steven. We already messed up one time. Go ahead and drink if you're going to count those. But Khonshu and Steven turn back the stars so they can use the constellations as they were 2,000 years ago to find Amit's tomb and try to stop Arthur Harrow from finding Amit and trying to raise Amit. We get a little escape action, which may or may not be realistic, not because of Layla's part in it, but as my guy Chillmonger points out, like the guys, I thought they were rounds or bullets in the back of the truck, but they may have had some kind of fireworks, and I'm not sure of what kind of celebration they may have been going to, and like detoured off to go and kidnap or kill some people. But the escape happened, and Layla and Steven ride off at night, and they take what I assume is either a long drive or maybe they stopped for a nap or something. But by the daytime, they're coming up on the dig site that Harrow and his men, or Harrow and his people, will do that, have come across looking for Amit. While they're doing that, you get Steven and Layla kind of talking. You get Steven coming, A, being honest with Layla, coming forth with some information that Mark may not have shared, but B, I think Steven coming into his own. I think as a part of this show, one of the more divisive things people in this show is Steven. I think the community, the audience is kind of split almost 50-50 on whether or not they like Steven. And I think Steven, which I kind of saw coming, is little by little making his way to being a different person, kind of standing up for himself, showing a little bit more courage than he started off with in episode 1. Which we see later on when he basically talks back to Mark when Mark is asking him about his feelings for Layla, and I think he makes some remark about Mark calling Mark if he needs a protein shake or something. Like Steven wouldn't have done that 1 or 2 episodes ago. Also, Stephen knows that there are life and death situations coming up, and he is going to man up and handle it. So I kind of like that out of Stephen. I like his growth there. I'm not sure if people are seeing it because Stephen kind of got under people's skin in the first couple of episodes, but we are enjoying the progression of Stephen as a character. But he and Layla get to the dig site, and they basically rummage through these empty tents where Harrow's people should be. If not all of them, you know, somebody should be outside standing guard, but it's like no one's there except for this blood in the back of one of the tents, and some weird things are going on in the cave, and we won't get into that, but there are some things going on that I don't understand, and there's a reason why we're not going to get too deep into it. But we get in the cave, and we have Stephen kind of fanboying out once he's down there, and he's seeing all of the markings, all of the statues, all of the history down there. At one point, we see him kind of linger around this cat-like figure towards the front of the cave, and I'm wondering if that's Bast from the Wakanda mythology. There is some relationship there, if I understand that. So I'm actually wondering about that also, but we're gonna leave that behind for now. I'm doing a lot of leaving behind for now because I don't want to be here all night, and I don't want to keep you here all night or all day, depending on when you watch. And we have important things to get to. So we get Stephen and Layla getting deeper into this cave, and they come to a maze with basically 6 directions to go in. And this is when Stephen uncovers the Eye of Horus, which has the 6 senses, including the mind, represented by the eyebrow of the Eye of Horus, and all the way down to the taste, which is represented by this curve that looks like a tongue, which turns out to be really important because he kind of deduces that this may be the person who is the mouth, who is the voice of Ammit. And also, they use it as a way to know where to go in this maze. And off we go to the next part. Okay, so when we get to our destination, kind of in the middle of the site, kind of deep inside the cave, we do have an action scene, a chase kind of scene with this blue creature who, if I'm not mistaken, is cutting up Billy from the Billy and Bobby pairing that we saw, come to the forefront in episode number 2, coming to get Stephen at his flat. Billy is actually, is it Billy? Billy, yeah, Billy is getting carved up by this blue creature, which again stirs up questions about what else is going on inside of this tomb, besides the obvious 2 parties of Layla and Stephen and Harrow and his followers. Who knows what that is? All I know is that the blue creature notices or hears Layla and Stephen, and they try to protect each other because they're already split up, and they're trying to protect each other, trying to get its attention so the other one can get away, and they get split. And this is where our episode kind of escalates. Layla runs off. She actually gets chased by the creature and has a confrontation and kind of outsmarts it. But at the end of the fight, she meets up with Arthur Harrow. And of course, Arthur Harrow, if you've been paying attention, is this slick talker who knows everything. I don't know how he knows everything. I think we're figuring out, but he knows everything, and so he strikes up a conversation with Layla. On the other hand, we have Stephen, who has made a clean getaway and got to their destination, which is the sarcophagus with Alexander the Great. Because apparently Alexander the Great wanted to be or pretended to be Egyptian. I don't know how accurate that is. I may look that up one day. But Alexander the Great was in the sarcophagus, and Stephen and Mark kind of figured that Alexander the Great is where Amit's stone prison is. And so Stephen basically deduces that since Alexander the Great was the voice of Amit, he's going to go down into the mummy's mouth and grab the little stone out, and it's all nasty. It's probably not gooky because the body's a few thousand years old, but it's still nasty to be reaching down in there. And at the same time, while he's finding what they have been looking for, Layla finds that Harrow knows what happened to her father. If you remember, he was kind of telling that story in the last episode, but it got broken up. But Harrow basically tells Layla that Mark was in attendance and knows about the death of her father, knows her father was murdered. He gave Layla all kinds of details about what he was wearing, what he was thinking, when and where and how. He knows her nickname, his real name. Arthur Harrow knows everything and sucks Layla right in. It's not like she's siding with Harrow or anything. She's not going to turn or any of that stuff. But she does go and look for Mark. And here she approaches Stephen. Stephen does this thing where, again, my guy Chillmonger asked, was Mark strong enough to take the body from Stephen? I think personally Stephen saw that Layla needed to talk to Mark about something serious and took the backseat intentionally. And at this point, Mark knows that they need to go so they can be safe, but it's too late. Layla kind of hides. Mark goes to fight Harrow and his men to save Layla, and Mark gets shot, and next thing you know, he falls into the water. And this is when we really get topsy-turvy. Also, let me rewind for a second because I didn't cover one thing. While Mark and Layla were talking about what happened to her father, we did cover, for those who are unfamiliar, we did actually cover Moon Knight's origin. And I keep showing this book, but in Moon Knight issue number 1, we get the story of what happened to Marlene, who is this character here, and her father at this Egyptian dig site, what it had to do with Mark Spector, what it had to do with the mercenary that he worked for. There are small, slight changes in this origin story, such as Layla not being present, where Marlene was there and saw everything. But outside of that, we did get the Moon Knight origin story. I wanted to come back to that before we got into the fact that it looked like Mark was falling into this shallow water, and then you get this flip in perspective, and now Mark is falling into this, almost this abyss. It's deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until it's almost pitch dark, and then we have this light coming out of the water. And the light leads to a movie. It leads to an old VHS movie with Stephen Grant actually being this explorer, which was really funny. I kind of wondered why Stephen Grant was the explorer here. I don't know if we're saying that Stephen Grant is an actor instead of his traditional producer director role, but that's kind of what we get. And then we pull out of that TV show, and it's actually a TV that is in the main room, or I guess the main social room of this mental institution. And this is where everything flips on its head. This is where the show actually does a lot to either cement some people's theories. It does a lot to either push people in the right direction or push people in the wrong direction. I do have a question about whether or not this show should have gone this deep or gone down this route, introducing the world to Moon Knight. That is a good question. Like, I enjoy it. I know a lot of people enjoy it, but there is a question of whether or not this was the route to take. But either way, we are here in this mental institution where Billy and Bobby are both still alive. They are orderlies. I think most Moon Knight readers will recognize them being orderlies, and what I'm getting at, which is also, again, why I think there is a good question to be asked if this was the right choice to make, because people who are familiar know what we are, but people who aren't have no clue. And how the people who have little to no clue take in what's happening says a lot about the success of your show. But we're going to keep moving forward. We notice a lot of people in this scene. As like I said, Billy and Bobby are in this scene. I'm wondering if that is Crawley calling out the bingo cards. But we also see Steven's old boss here. We see Layla here talking about changing the TV, but she's really just changing pictures on the wall. We even see the goldfish and the little goldfish bowl. And then we see Mark with a Moon Knight toy in his hand in a wheelchair, really heavily sedated. He's looking at this window. He's talking to Steven as if Steven's going to talk back. But it is the weirdest thing in the world that we are in this mental institution. We go to the next scene, and we have got Mark taken in to see the doctor of the mental institution. And if you see all the familiar faces, I bet you can guess that the doctor is Arthur Harrow. I don't know if the doctor is actually Arthur Harrow now, but the doctor is Ethan Hawke's character. And he talks to Mark, and he's talking to Mark like a doctor would, but then he starts picking at things like the movie that apparently Mark brought in. I think it's Tomb Buster. He starts talking to Mark about lunar gods and about Steven, and kind of picking at him and toying with him and all of this stuff. Mark starts to come back and hear what's going on, and then he takes a look at the doctor's cane and the doctor's shoes and some of the Egyptian items in the doctor's office, and he gets a whiff of the fact that this is Arthur Harrow. Not only does he get a whiff of the fact that this is Arthur Harrow, but he remembers that Arthur Harrow shot him. And so as he's trying to escape, he throws off Bobby and Billy because they come in there. He is really weak, but strength is coming back to him at a relatively fast pace, I would think. And so he kind of escapes from the office, runs down the hallway, locks himself in another cell with a sarcophagus in it. Why is there a sarcophagus in the middle of this mental institution? We'll get there. It opens up, and we see coming out of it none other than Steven in the flesh, and they hug it out with this big hug, which really reminds me of the Jeff Lemire, not everybody's Mark, Jeff Lemire run on Moon Knight, which is where this scene, the whole mental institution thing, is pulled from. So now most of the Moon Knight fans are now in their element. They know exactly where they are. But once again, is that good for the show? Is that good for the mainstream fan? Some like it, some don't. It's really split down the middle. In fact, I was talking to my guy DJ Links, and he had Remy Q Studios on his show live Friday night, and they were talking about the show, and even they were split down the middle. One liked the first half of the show, didn't like the second half. One kind of liked the second half of the show, didn't like the first half. It's an interesting thing with this show. But as I said, Mark and Steven have now met up as different people in different bodies in this hospital. They're running, and they run into a nice hippo lady, and the episode goes off. And that is the end, technically, of episode number 4 of Moon Knight. So what I want to ask is, what did you think? How did you enjoy it? Where are you, 4 episodes in, where are you on Moon Knight? Have you enjoyed what you've been getting? Have you not? Where do you think the show is going? And where do you want it to go? What do you want to see? If you paid attention to episode 1, I have a hint for you. I think I know what is going on, and I think the hippo and Mark and Steven being in separate bodies makes it evident. But if you go back to episode 1, there's a little girl who Mark talks to, Steven talks to, drink again. There's a little girl that Steven talks to, who Steven is telling her how the Egyptians were prepping people to go to the afterlife, and how they treated the bodies, and how they kind of took everything out except for the heart, I believe it is, so that they can cross over to the field of reeds. And the little girl, with a straight face, asked Steven why he hasn't crossed over. And Steven says, "I'm not dead, am I?" I think, personally, that 99% of what we have seen so far is not real. But I want to ask, how do you feel about 99% of the show, if that is in fact a fact, being not real? I don't people may take that how they're going to take it. If that's the case, again, what are we expecting in episode 5? Because if none of this is real, then in episode 5, even the seasoned Moon Knight fans don't know what to expect. Is he this superpowered character? Is Khonshu still alive? Is he a street level character? In real life, has he met people? Where is he in real life if this is all fake? Nobody knows anything, but I'd like to know what you think is going on and what you would like to happen. And if all this is fake, what is going on with the avatar of Osiris? Anyway, I am Flash by Night. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you heard or saw something you liked. If you did see something you liked or heard something you liked, hit the like button. And if you want to keep up with me as I follow up on Moon Knight, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Don't forget to leave comments. I am interested in the answers to all the questions that I have posed here, and I think I'm still running on 30 minutes. I've got to figure out how to cut this down. But as we always do at this time, love yourself, love others, and I will be back in a flash.